So we are actually going to go ahead and get this started. So glad to see everybody here today. We have Tony Wells, who has carved out time in his very busy schedule to be with us here today to talk about board leadership. And he's not just on one board, but multiple boards. And as you all start talking with board leaders, you may find that to be the case. They're not just on one board, they get on one and then they get access to others. But we're going to hear all about that here today. Tony, welcome and thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks, Joel. It's a pleasure. Good to see so many brothers out there. I see Sean Howard, which we have some shared history at USA, but hoping I can give you some insights today and a little bit about my journey and how that can maybe make your journey more successful. So.
Fantastic. Well, I'll tell you, you've had previous sessions where guys have said, from that session alone, it has saved me, shaved off 5 years off of my learning curve. So we know that we're swimming in deep waters and that guys are getting a ton of value from these experiences. And we know this is going to be one of those sessions here today. Tony, if you wouldn't mind jumping in for our participants here, audience members, just sharing a little bit about your background, the corporate journey. How did you even get to board leadership?
Yeah, look, I've been an operator for about 38 years. Went to the Naval Academy, spent 5 years paying back Uncle Sam, and made the transition to corporate America. I probably have a little bit of a unique background because I kind of tripped into marketing. My last tour in the Marine Corps was as a public affairs officer, and that served me getting into a corporate communications department at Nissan. And from there, I made the transition to marketing. And I knew probably, 15 years in, I wanted to be a CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, so run the function, and made a purposeful choice to leave a big brand like Visa, where asking for feedback from them, they said, well, hey, you're probably not going to be the CMO anytime soon, or the likely jobs needed to be in that role may not be available soon. So I made the decision to go to a smaller brand, kind of take a step back in terms of revenue and prominence in order to get my first opportunity to be a CMO. And sometimes you get a title like that, you should never concede it back. Like, don't give the title back because it's so hard to get. And from there, went on to be a CMO at 4 different brands, and I've been very, very blessed in terms of running the marketing function. I think, journey is a little bit unique too, in that I've been at 10 different companies. So job hopping maybe was a little beneficial for me along the way. Sometimes that doesn't serve folks, but I switched industries. But I also switched companies because I found in terms of compensation that sometimes when you're not afraid to move, you can pick up more responsibility and more compensation. Not the journey that might be there for everyone, but sometimes it's more difficult because you switch industries and you have to kind of be very diligent about learning that new industry in order to have the competence. So there's always trade-offs in that. And most recently left Verizon as their chief media officer about a year ago, and have left operating roles, and I'm just doing board service now. So I feel very blessed. I've had some great mentors around my career. Not all of them Black, some of them white, but more importantly, that whole idea of having a sponsor in the room, not a mentor, but a sponsor, someone who's going to speak highly of you when they start putting names up about who's going to get the next big opportunity or who's going to get that promotion. So anyway, I feel very, very blessed, Joel.
Guys, we're in a master class right now. I want you to look at it that way. I want you to think of it that way. There are things being shared here that have been so consistent with our previous speakers as well. And there's some I want to highlight on. Tony, I'm sorry, I just gotta go off road for a moment based on a little bit of what you've shared that I think is going to help anchor into Stepstone and some of the pieces around board leadership. Guys, one of the things that I heard is you chose in terms of chief marketing officer. There was a point in your career when you made a conscious choice. And as a coach, I've worked with so many guys. and they're so focused on their job, they're not quite looking toward the end of where they want to get to or the mountain top of where they want to get to. Just briefly, we're going to get to board stuff. I know, guys, you're hungry for that. How important was that in your career to choose the end goal? How important was that?
Look, I think it's about having a true north, a North Star about where do you want to try and end up. I know as a young manager, I never imagined that I would sit in the lead marketing role at a Fortune 100 company. I think you have to be very deliberate about that. And I would say to folks, I tend to plan in 5-year increments, but again, keeping the destination, the end in mind. And not everybody wants to be in a C-suite. Some folks, my dad was a 30-year pharmaceutical salesman at the district level. He never wanted to, he enjoyed carrying a sales bag every day and calling on hospitals. So everybody has a different path, but it's important to know where you think you want to end up and continue to plan in 5-year increments to make sure that in general, you're headed in that direction. What I would say to you is do not rely on your company to be the source of your career journey or your destination or your pathing. They're not in the business of that. And in today's corporate environment, that is less and less likely to happen because there's going to be cuts and M&A activity and reduction in forces. You have to own your career. And then the last thing I say, not to hopefully preach too much at you, but is this idea of taking ownership of your career and having fierce conversations with your boss, and if needed, even their boss. And by fierce conversation is, I often see folks that come into an annual review and they kind of just want to know, what did I get? What's my bonus? Am I getting a merit increase? And they kind of want to get in and out of the room as quickly as possible. That should be a chance after you've worked all year to really dig in with your boss and say, what do I need to do better? What am I doing well? Where do I rank against my peers? If you have 5 peers, am I number 1 or number 5? Because you can get a good rating, but you can be 5 of 5, and 5 of 5 is not going to get you to the next thing. But you need to ask your boss and make them force rank you. It's a great discussion. And tell them what you want to do and deputize them to help you get to that next goal that you have on your journey. Don't leave an annual review not being well prepared to tell your story about what you've achieved and look in the mirror. Here's what I believe I need to work on. Validate that with your boss. Now, that's not to say your boss is always right. They may not hold you in high regard, and that's fine. You can work around them. But often I find organizations are giving you lots of hints about where you stand with that organization. And either we walk by them or we're just happy to get the raise and go around the track one more year again. You can often end up circling the track 3 or 4 years and you're wondering why you're not progressing, but the organization is telling you in some very mixed signals, we don't see you at that next level. And you need to vet that. You need to get that out, because if they don't see you going to that next level, and assuming you want to be there at that next level and make the commitment and the sacrifice, if they're not seeing you there, then you need to vote with your feet. You need to go find an organization that is going to embrace you and use your superpowers to get you to the next level. So I know I'm preaching a little bit there, but fierce conversations about where you stand in an organization. I'd almost rather get my feelings hurt by knowing where I stand and being able to. And I'll just tell you, I left USA because the CEO told me he didn't see me going somewhere. So I voted with my feet. I'm not mad at him. He gave me the feedback I needed to have, and I moved on, and things progressed. But have fierce conversations with your organizations about where you stand.
I tell you that's probably one of the key takeaways that I'm already taking away from this. Guys, this is a masterclass. We're going to have the recording available. Please share it with your network. Those fierce conversations are it. I'm telling you guys, the ones that you put in the back of your mind that's uncomfortable, right? It just the anxiety it produces, all of that. But these are the things that once you have the clarity, even if you get an answer that you don't like, you'll know. Imagine saving yourself 2 or 3 years of just knowing where you stand with your boss, with an organization, so you can choose. And if you want to choose to stay there because the money's good or for
Yeah.
any number of reasons, so be it. But now you know that you've hit a ceiling, likely, probably, and it might be time to pivot. So, I mean, we really need about 3 hours likely for this conversation. There's so many gems, guys. You're going to get your opportunity to have questions answered on the 30 mark. But we did book this session with Tony about board leadership. So we're going to pivot to that in just a moment. But we're a community of mentorship. You talked about sponsorship, absolutely important. For all the VP and C-level guys in the room, I don't know exactly who's here and what level of seniority. If that's you, so just those guys, if you're willing to mentor mid-level guys, entry-level guys, please drop your LinkedIn into the chat. Just the VP C-level guy. If that's you and you're willing to mentor, talk through, have these conversations with more junior level guys, please drop your LinkedIn into the chat box. We want to create a mentorship, sponsorship heavy community. Tony, we're going to go ahead and pivot to the elements around board leadership. What inspired you to pursue a board role?
Yeah, so I'm 60 years old. I was not quite ready to walk off the field of play. I felt like I had some great experience to contribute, and a board role is a great way to do that. You are obviously involved with the strategic direction of the company. You're there as a fiduciary to ensure that you're maximizing shareholder value and wealth. And you still get to connect to the business. And so for me, it was a nice transition from being a day-to-day operating executive. I will say that it's less stressful. You are not making the day-to-day decisions, but like I said, you are very, very involved in key things that a company may be considering: strategic pivots, M&A activity, major legal, regulatory, and compliance action. So you're in the fray, but maybe not in the fire.
So the preparation piece it's actually key. So let's even just say for mid-level guys, what experience is it P&L? What kind of people leadership is it? A board certification programs, Blackboard readiness program. They have a bunch of different programs. What should guys be doing today? What can they do to take one step forward Wednesday, November 20th, in order to end up on a paid board? Guys, just want to make that distinction. There's nonprofit boards, there's for-profit. We're talking about paid board roles specifically in this conversation. That could be through some kind of payment or equity, et cetera. But that's what we're focused on. What's a step? What's 2 steps that guys could take today to prepare?
Yeah. So look, I firmly believe that setting yourself up to one day be a board member is about building a solid body of work. You're not going to be in consideration for a board role if you haven't put up a body of work that suggests that you have functional expertise, that you have revenue and P&L experience, that you haven't led organizations and as an operator confronted some of the likely challenges that a company is going to face. They want you for that experience. So the first and foremost thing you can do is put up a solid body of work with business outcomes and results that you can tout. And again, setting yourself up for a board is much different than applying for a job where you're giving them a resume and you want to know specifics. This is more around how you can provide more strategic counsel. And I would say also, if you're in a company right now, you want to be in and around the boardroom. And by that, I mean, you want to be a part of that big initiative, that M&A activity, that P&L responsibility that puts you in a position where you're presenting to the board. That's the best experience you can get to understand what the dynamics are, the politics, how your company management team collaborates with the board. Those are really valuable experiences that you want to try to get. But none of it begins. Step one, foundational, is a solid body of work in your functional area or P&L or revenue or things that the company is facing. You want to be in the action because that sets you up to have the expertise and the experience that a company will say, oh, we need this person on the board. I think historically, corporate boards have wanted CEOs and CFOs. I think the good news for everyone is they're opening the aperture on that, and now they are embracing folks who have cyber or supply chain or marketing or chief people officer. All those functions are now being considered for board roles. I would tell you there's kind of an arc, a continuum to this. If you're in your 30s or early 40s, I would say try to go join a nonprofit board. The muscle memory, the governance and expertise and how a board works and committees and collaboration, that is good training ground for you to eventually end up on a corporate or a public or private board. So start there. Then I would say migrate to the idea of private equity or VC related boards if you have connections there. Those are often smaller companies where there are either board or advisory roles where the revenue for the company is smaller, but again, you can build expertise that you are, from a revenue generating perspective, helping guide a company. And then from there, go into private companies and public companies. And we can get into this, Jewel. I have kind of age ranges for some of these things, but we can talk a little bit about how that arc might play out for folks.
This is amazing, guy. Masterclass, real time. Step-by-step game plan, guys. So you can kind of measure up against this rubric and see where you're at. In this community, it's not just everyone doing their own things. There are expectations. We talk about earning seven figures, and we mean that here. We talk about board leadership, and we mean that here as well. There are very high expectations. Now, whether guys choose to adopt those or not, every man gets to make up his own mind. But we keep those expectations high. We keep our foot on the gas. So for the guys that do want to make it there, they feel fully supported in doing so. Let's go ahead and check in with the chat briefly. Anybody out there, if you could just put yes, if you are currently on or have been on a nonprofit board. Let's see who's here. Let's see who's done what. So we don't think we're the only one. That's so common in our communities. I'm the only one having this experience. Yes, I'm currently on a nonprofit board. We got the yeses coming through. Gary, third nonprofit. Travis is, Wayne is. We got a lot of board leadership already happening. See, we might need a separate meeting or container just for the board leadership guys. Let's go ahead and keep it going while those are coming in. Anybody on currently, and I know some guy already got a name in mind, any guys on private equity or VC boards currently at this time? Currently PE VC board, if you could please put a yes into the chat box or note it into the chat box. Anybody, the number might be less, but that's okay, right? That's okay. We're going to give a moment for those to roll in. And if they do, and as they do.
So what I would say there, Joel, is look, it's a great way to connect with something that you're passionate about. But I would say if you can find something that connects with your company or career with the nonprofit. So I'll give you an example. When I was at Nissan, I, at a very young age, I think I was 32, got placed onto the National Board of Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Nissan had a corporate relationship with them, and because of the amount of money that they gave, they extended a board role, and I took that role. it was a great way to solve a business need, but also a personal growth need of mine. And so it was kind of a 2-for-1. I got some very early experience around how boards run. And I was also getting credit with my boss and the organization for representing the company on that board. So if you can find an opportunity like that where you meet a business need, and look, sometimes organizations you belong to have all these memberships because they donate money, and the nonprofit is often looking for representation. Go ask the person that runs that relationship, your HR, your marketing, or operations, and say, hey, is there an opportunity to be on the board? You get a 2-for-1 because you're getting that experience. And so I would say 30s to mid 45 or so, if you can be on a nonprofit board, is a great, then progress to a private equity or VC. So those are smaller companies, advisory. And then to me, you want to be on your first significant revenue generating board by the time you're in your early to mid 50s. And the reason I say that is because you want to build that body of work that you can point to say that I've run a major operation, I've ran a P&L, I had 500 people working for me, or you want to be able to say that, and you can often do that through NACD, which is the National Association of Corporate Directors, or PDA, that's called the Private Directors Association. Those are trade organizations for corporate directors for public and private companies. If you go look on their sites, you'll see lots of content and information, and like Jules said, certification opportunities. And so it's a little bit of an arc, but it's something that you build, in my opinion, over 10 or 15 years. And my nonprofit went to 2 private equity boards, and then from a private equity board to public company boards. And the progression was nice, and it was a easy stair step. One other thing I will tell you is, don't consider going on a board if you're struggling with your day job. I kind of view this as it's a cherry on top of the sundae when you have the capacity and bandwidth. If you're in the middle of a dogfight because of the market or the vertical or the company that you're in is just struggling right now, I think the last thing you want to do is use valuable time to be chasing a nonprofit or a PE VC. Make sure you're answering the day job requirements, because only then can you really, I think, maximize this opportunity. And the other thing I would say is, make sure you have alignment with your boss and your organization about whether they're open for you doing this, especially if you're going to be working and getting paid for it. A lot of companies, when I was at Verizon, senior execs could only be on one board. Some companies have policies that they don't, like Amazon, you're not allowed to be on any board. So make sure you have sign off from your organization if you are presented with an opportunity, so you don't get sideways with your organization where you have a board opportunity conflicting with your, paying the bills and your day job. So.
Absolutely. Just gems coming through, folks. So got a couple more questions before we pivot to Q&A. We're going to have BEM Gold members jump in first for the Q&A. But, Black executive men, we focus on Black men specifically. There's a lot of demographics to focus on in corporate. However, we know that we face, unique challenges, but also opportunities. And we like to talk openly about that here in order to navigate that just kind of corporate environment most strategically, if you will. So can we talk about that piece in terms of Black men and board leadership? Do we face unique challenges? Are there unique opportunities? Is this more of a mindset? Is there skill set? Is there certain networks we should go about? Is there certain things we should be doing, not doing? If you could, just kind of tell us based on your own experience and what you've seen in the field, can we talk about that piece of the puzzle?
Yeah. Look, I'm going to go back. I'm going to be repetitive on this. Build a body of work in your core role and your core job. That speaks volumes, because then when you start to call up and connect with folks around opportunities, they know that you can get the job done. They know that they're willing to endorse you or sponsor you for consideration on a board. So that to me is just is job one. Look, there are so many amazing programs that are out there. Whether it's Executive Leadership Council has a board, corporate board navigator program that if you're an ELC, that you can go through that. Santa Clara has a very unique program. I very early on joined a program called Directors Academy. It's run by James White, a brother who used to be the CEO of Jamba Juice. He runs that out of the Bay Area. I went out of pocket and paid the $5,000 because I said, I want to start to build the competency here in being a board member. And I did that, over 10 years ago. And it's, I think, paid dividends. So you have NACD, PDA, you have lots of programs out there. And if you Google Blacks on Boards, there's just, NASDAQ has a program, New York Stock Exchange has a program. Jewel, I can get you some of those resources afterwards that you could push out to folks to explore how they might. But again, look to build that body of work and then start to let people know that you're interested in this from a corporate or a private company perspective, especially when you get into your 50s. And I'm saying 50s because I think, I hate to put an age on it, but that's really when people start to come into focus about viewing you for potential. There are exceptions to every rule, but you normally need that 20, 25 years of work experience to set yourself up for consideration. But letting people know that are in the C-suite or that are other board members that you're interested in that. And I will say this is very different than applying for a job. Often you may not even know that you're on a list. Search firms are retained to go find a board member. If you look at any given time, there may only be 1,000 open board roles in the Fortune 500. You're normally appointed for at least a 1 year to 3 year term. And with term limits or people rolling off, there's not that many opportunities, and they normally only happen once a year. So you may be on a list for consideration and being kind of silently vetted by like, does somebody know Jewel? Does somebody know Sean? And you don't even know you're being considered. And then you get the call to say, hey, are you interested in this? So letting recruiters know, letting other C-suite, letting executives know, because when I get a call, often, I got a call the other day, hey, a tobacco company is, looking for a board member. I'm like, oh, okay, great. That may be not what I want to go put my time and energy, but I want to refer another, brother or sister to the opportunity. So just being prepared. And then if you, again, Jewel, I can send you this, but there's something called a board bio, which is very different than a resume. It basically is an executive summary of your career and what superpowers you have. And you would present that when a company or recruiter, or if you're just talking to another C-suite executive, you would present that so that they know that you're interested. A lot of brothers, we swap board bios. I do that all the time. Like, hey, send me your board bio. I got yours. I put it in a little file. And then when I get a call, for example, somebody called the other day and said, hey, I'm looking for a CFE, a certified financial expert. I'm not a CFE, meaning somebody that could end up on the audit committee of a public company. But I know some folks that are finance folks that have that skill set, and that's how I can make a referral. So some of it is about casting a wide net. I will tell you, brothers, that LinkedIn is kind of like a big expression of your brand. So I would encourage you to keep it updated, add commentary and posts and put articles there. It is a way to show recruiters and prospective search firms, whether you're a thought leader, whether you're kind of understanding what's going on in the business environment from AI to cyber or supply chain or whatever your specialty is, please engage in that to let people know that you're out thinking, you're progressive, and you're staying very in touch with the key topics going on in the marketplace.
Amazing information, guys. We're actually going to go ahead and pivot to Q&A. You guys said you wanted more Q&A time last time, so we're going to weave that in here and now. Going to have our BEM Gold members jump in first. KJ, let's have you go first. I know you got a question.
Yep. Again, Tony, thank you so much for your time. And you talked about a few good points with having a body of work and before taking a board member role. But I wanted to ask, just from a personal perspective, what value did you find for yourself and for your community when you took on those nonprofit board roles?
Well, look, so I was on a bunch of them. I did Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I did Make-A-Wish. I did USA, the foundation there. I did my high school. I grew up in DC, went to an all-boys Catholic school. I was on the board there for 6 years. So some of these were personal passion points, but some of them connected back to the business. And so, look, I think always when you find something you're passionate about, things just go well and you're more probably engaged. So find something that connects to a passion point, and if you can find a way that's something that your company supports too, you might be able to, get two birds with one stone. And make sure if you're representing your company on a nonprofit board that they're involved with, that you get credit for that. You come back and tell your boss, you tell the organization, find ways to get that nonprofit and your involvement with it prominently involved in the company and the organization, so that can be a proof point of your skills, your governance, your management capability, and make it a positive for both entities.
Thank you.
Love it. Johnny, we're going to have you up next, but just a moment. Tony got a question, a LinkedIn question. I'm so glad you brought up LinkedIn. As you guys know, I'm a big LinkedIn guy. I love networking. I love the LinkedIn platform, make connections, hop on calls, build out the network. In terms of your own LinkedIn use, my guess is you get a lot of people reaching out to you, and I'll just very, very brief anecdote. I've talked with a number of senior leaders, and they don't necessarily answer or respond or accept every invitation. And I've talked to a lot of junior level guys who say, I'm constantly reaching out, but they're not responding. And so there can be this disconnect, but I know some of those messages get through. So I'm not here trying to actually change the dynamic, but to better understand it. Tony, can you talk about that dynamic, and what are the messages that if guys send them to you, even from this community here today, that with your busy schedule, pique your interest and say, I'm going to respond to this guy based on what he's saying? What are those messages? I want this to be kind of like that LinkedIn message upgrade training.
Yeah, look, I get a lot of those. So I work, one of the things I do, kind of a portfolio of things I do in addition to my board service. I'm with the VC here in Arizona, and I get a lot of pitches for people like, hey, I'm a founder. I want to talk to you about pitching your company. And so I try to discern those, but in general, I don't connect with anybody that I don't really have some type of shared experience. I don't do cold calling connecting for me. And the reason is I want to be able to recall why or how I know you. And if you start just connecting with anybody, then it kind of to me, it loses some of its specialness. So that's my policy. But I think in terms of if someone on this group, let's say we had never met on this call, if somebody was trying to get to me, I think it's always better when you get somebody that I know to kind of give you that passive endorsement. So it's the whole, what Kevin Bacon, 3 degrees of separation. It's like, you've got to know somebody that I know. And I do that a lot for folks. Someone I know, pings me and say, hey, I'm trying to get to this company because I'm trying to sell them something, or there's a job opportunity there. And if I know them and I trust them and they have a good, brand with me, I'm like, sure, I'll make the introduction. And look, I couch it with the person like, hey, this is a Jewel. He and I met through BEM, and he'd like to talk to you about something. So I'm not giving you all out like, take anything and everything Jules says as gospel, but I'm setting it up. So I think it's just that idea of casting a wide network. Look, this is currency. And I think one of the things we often do is we connect with someone and then you don't go back to that person until you need something. And I think that that's the wrong approach. You know, it's like the small things. If you go in your LinkedIn notifications, it'll tell you if someone switched job, if it's their birthday, if they made a post. And I just spend time saying, even somebody I haven't talked to, hey, happy birthday, man. I hope you have a special day. It's this idea of staying engaged and not using LinkedIn only when you want to make a withdrawal. You need to make deposits. You need to stay engaged and not make this totally transactional, because to me, when I have a transactional ask, it's a little bit higher hurdle than this is somebody, I looked at this on my messages. Yeah, this he's pinged me a couple of times along the way in the last couple of years. He's not doing one-way, transactional stuff with me. So that's the takeaway, Jewel. Stay engaged. See if you can have somebody else who personally make that introduction. And then once you build that relationship, you got to water it. You got to make deposits versus just withdrawals.
Absolutely key. So guys, let's go ahead and pick up the pace here. We're going to get some BEM Gold members jump in, and then we're going to open up the floor. Johnny, let's have you go ahead, jump in, then Xavier, then Ruki, and then we're going to open up the floor.
Great, sounds good. Tony, thanks again for your time. This has been really great. You talked earlier a bit about, if possible, trying to align board roles or opportunities with either your day job or, from a nonprofit standpoint, with something you're passionate about in an ideal scenario. But given the scarcity of the roles that become available in situations where an opportunity comes along that doesn't necessarily align with any of those, what other sorts of criteria you use to evaluate whether or not it's worth your time or it's something you should actually engage in, or how you can actually contribute to an opportunity?
Yeah, look, there are so many organizations in our community that need help and expertise. They need management experience. They need P&L responsibilities. Look, I'll be a little critical of nonprofits. Sometimes they're not run like we run our businesses, and they could use that support and guidance. So I would just say, look, more than anything, make sure you do your due diligence. And this is about any board opportunity. The worst thing that you could do is go into a nonprofit or a private company or a public company and find out that they've got a bunch of stuff they're dealing with. So let's just pick on public companies for a while. That they have some type of regulatory and compliance, or they have an activist shareholder, or they're in a major lawsuit, or they have some legal, hey, stay away, because the last thing you want to do is get sucked into something. You always have to remember, in all of these roles, there is some measure of personal liability that extends to you. So I would also tell you, one thing is, if you end up going into corporate and paid roles, explore an LLC to isolate, your risk. Explore umbrella insurance coverage. Explore D&O, director and officer insurance coverage, so that you don't bring your personal assets into risk if someone decides they want to sue the board or something. So in general, what I'm saying is, find a passion point. There's so many organizations out there that need help. Also, you'll find PDA, the Private Directors Association. You can join that. I think it's $300 or $400, and they list all these companies that are looking for advisors or boards of directors, and you can find a company that connects with your skill set by joining that. I'm not a big fan. There's a lot of paid services out there where people say, I'll get you on a board. I'm not going to say no one's had success with it. I just think there's other ways through general networking before you start to, get out your paycheck. Now, I am, as I told you earlier, something like the Directors Academy, or some of the Harvard has some great programs on board service. There's some things out there worth paying, but pay to have someone do a search for you, I'm less supportive of that, in my opinion.
Got it.
Fantastic
Thank you.
stuff. Good stuff. Great question, Johnny. We're going to pivot to Xavier next, but before we do, all the coaches here, please drop your LinkedIn link in the chat box. Anybody looking for a coach, go ahead and check out the coaches there. You might find somebody that can help take you to your next level. All right, Xavier, let's go ahead and have you jump in. Rookie, we'll have you go next, and we're going to open the floor.
Awesome. Thank you again, Tony, for your time. And I'm going to go as a fellow marketer, so you're probably going to remember the lingo when I say this. But when building your body of work as a board member, outside when you're with a nonprofit, outside of fundraising, what do you think are some priority KPIs that I should be focusing on in order to quantify my level of work within or my impact within the board that I serve on?
Yeah, look, I think if you can be on a nonprofit and be where the revenue is in terms of fundraising. Now, look, nonprofit boards are often, you have to go give or get a certain amount of money to play. So it can be, you know, writing a check. But I think, again, you want to view this as a business. So things associated with audit committee or the revenue generation, try to be close to those, because those are often, I think, translatable skills and experience that can kind of help you later. But also, you know, again, be on the executive committee, be in a nonprofit in terms of the ones making key budget decisions, the hiring and firing of the CEO, the strategic direction of where the nonprofit is, you know, kind of be where the action is, just like in a business. You want to be as close to where revenue is generated, where key strategic business decisions are made. That'd be my, you know, my advice and counsel on that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Love it. Rookie, let's have you go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, thanks. Nice chat, Tony. Question I had, as you talked about moving roles to get to your North Star, as you moved, some of those probably included moving locations, moving cities. As you move to those places, because, you know, similar to kind of what I'm experiencing, how do you reestablish a network in a new city to, you know, find the right boards to kind of continue that path as you move from place to place, city to city over the course of your career?
Yeah, great question. And look, for everybody, this is a personal trade-off. Uprooting your family, and it can be difficult. My wife is a trooper. In the last 10 years, we've moved 7 times. Now, sometimes with the same company, sometimes just as reload, but you know, it's sometimes the price you pay to, you know, go chase a goal. Now, as it relates to you come into a new city, I will tell you, I'll use an example. I landed here in Phoenix 18 months ago. I knew nobody here. Not one person, except the real estate agent who sold me the house. And even her, I got through a referral. I used LinkedIn and I said, I want to build my network here. The first person I met was a brother. He's a COO at ASU, Chris Howard. You probably won't mind if I shut up. Brilliant brother, Air Force Academy grad. So we already had that military. I'm a Naval Academy grad. He's an Air Force Academy grad. He's a Rhodes Scholar. He's a Harvard MBA. He's on the board of the Harvard Corporation. He's on public. I was like, I'm meeting this brother. I just called him up out of the blue and said, hey, you got to go to coffee with me. Now, I got a friend of his to introduce us. And now we've built a little network here of Black executives that we meet once a quarter, because I said, I need to meet someone. And there's so many Black executives here in Phoenix, but it was about being very deliberate. Now, I have a lot of time on my hand because I'm not an operating executive like you guys, but using LinkedIn to start to make connections. And I literally called up probably 50 people and said, hey, will you go to coffee with me? Some of them were cold calls, but most of them came through a first party recommendation. And so over 18 months, I've got a great network, and I'm going to brag on myself right here. I'm having a holiday party in 2 weeks. I've got 50 people coming, and I feel really good about that because I didn't know anybody 18 months ago, and now I got 50 people coming because I've built a network here. I met Then a guy, James White, I told you, the CEO of Jamba Juice. James moves to Phoenix. I'm like, oh, you're in Phoenix now. And then I meet, Eric Moses, who's the CEO of the Fiesta Bowl, brother. Then I meet Latasha, who is a sister, who's the CEO of the Phoenix NASCAR raceway here. And then I meet Pam Isle, who's the former CMO of the NBA. She vacations here. And then Paula C. You start connecting this, and now you have a powerful network, and includes getting a subscription to the Black newspaper, reaching out to the Black Chamber of Commerce. And look, I'm for everyone, but I think the journey that we have as Black men has some very unique aspects to it that require a different set of skills, a different set of navigational tools, and I'm very mindful that I need those, and I'm always at 60 trying to send the elevator back down, and so I'm also trying to mentor, and that's one of the things I'm trying to do with this VC here in Arizona. I'm trying to find more Black founders, and I've been here 9 months in this role, and I sat through 3 pitches today. Wednesday is pitch day in our office. I've only had pitches from 3 Black executives or Black founders, and so I'm trying to do more of that. So it's all about long-winded answer, but you just have to be proactive. And I really think use LinkedIn, use your fraternity, sorority connections, use links. You got the Boulay. You got all these different things that can bring a network of people here that can support you. Sorry, Jewel. I'm long-winded at times.
No, you're on fire right now. This is truly a masterclass. And BEM, the whole ecosystem and BEM community, it's about just that. It's about having conversations, letting guys know where the jobs are, where the founders are, where the funders are, where the quality investments are, where it's just a good conversation, authentic friendship. We focus on that as well. So I really love your model, Tony, in terms of just building person to person and being able to come into kind of any given city and building up your network. That's a skill set, guys, that we're all developing that's going to serve us for a lifetime. We got some hands up. Guys, we're going to get out of here on time, if not a little bit early. So let's see how many we can get to and just kind of take it from there. It's been great information. Kamar, let's have you jump in there.
Okay. Hey, Tony. Hey, thanks for joining the call and sharing your insight and knowledge. I wanted you to take a step back because I get hammered with all these different things and you mentioned these trainings for boards and solicitations. Hey, we'll find you boards. But as one you mentioned, I think where it's some kind of an academy or something like that, and I have that as well. And it may be the same one. I got to check my emails. That I think I had filled it out and got accepted, and it's about $5,000. Can you take us through your experience going through that?
Yeah, if we're talking about the same one, it's Directors Academy. James White, who, like I said, was with Jamba Juice, is the executive kind of sponsor of that. It's out in the Bay Area. It's a 2 or 3 day course. You go through all of the normal committees that a public company corporate board would have, understanding what their mandates are. You talk about governance, you talk about risk management and kind of key issues that boards are facing: AI, cyber, risk and compliance, M&A, and then they actually bring in board members from public companies that can actually serve to be advisors and kind of mentors to you. So it's a 2 or 3 day course. I did it, like I said, over 10 years ago. I found it beneficial, but there are a lot of different programs out there. If you look, most of the big consulting firms also have some type of board program. McKinsey, Bain, KPMG. If you Google them, a lot of them will do board because they're trying to get consulting business from brands and companies. So tons of resources out there. But again, I would say if you're in your 30s and 40s, focus right now on just a body of work from your day job. getting some experience with nonprofit or smaller company entities, and then when you get cross over to 50, then start to get serious about fine tuning your NACD certification or reaching out to recruiters, because you don't want to go too early, because they're going to view you as not being maybe competitive with the slate of folks that they're looking at candidates. But you want to start to, like I said, build some of that muscle memory now.
I'm flattered that you would think that
you look like you're about 30. I don't know.
And I'm 50. I'm 52. I just turned 50.
Well, so you're in the zone. You need to, like in that case, an NAD certification or Santa Clara or Harvard. And again, for you guys, you can connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to. Just make sure you put a BEM reference on here so I know how we came to know each other. And if I can offer advice and counsel, I certainly will.
Great stuff, guys. YB, let's have you go ahead and jump in. We're doing great on time.
Tony, great contribution to this community. I really appreciate it. I'm Rob Youngblood, Chief Connecting Officer of YB Connects and the LinkedIn Locksmith. I'm always interested when I'm in these fireside chats to know, what are you reading? Like, what are brothers that are at that level of leadership? What are you reading? What are you pulling in? What are you doing to stay sharp and competitive when you're in these environments? Thank you.
Yeah, my wife hates this. She goes, "You're always on your phone." And I'm a voracious reader. My mom was a teacher, and we almost had to read one article in the newspaper before we went off to school. She insisted on that. So I'm a big consumer of news and kind of pulling that together. The book that I'm reading right now is called Strength to Strength. It's this idea of the skills and strengths that you have right now in your 30 and 40s won't be the same strengths that you need in your 50s and 60s. And often great minds in their 20s and 30s in certain careers can last a lifetime, especially like in the academic world. But often in the business world, the strengths that you have in your 20s and 30s and how you're prepared to do the grind is very different, and how you navigate that. And so I'm feeling like I'm on my second effort here. And I've been spending some time just getting into what those new strengths are that I might need to develop. So that's the book I'm kind of reading now. But I also think, like I said, a lot of this to me is, for me, my board work is in the marketing, media, entertainment space. And I just read a lot of the trades and the articles that are out there. And that's just kind of an endless list of publications. So staying cognizant of what's happening in your industry and staying up to date with what's going on. That's kind of what I was saying with LinkedIn. It can be a great source of information by following people that are thought leaders in your industry. And so like I said, I really would recommend that. And Strength to Strength is by a guy named Arthur Brooks. I'm kind of like a third of the way through it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Good stuff. As I noted earlier, any therapists that we have in the room, please go ahead, drop your contact. Any brothers looking for therapists, black male therapists, you can find them in the chat. If we have any here, you can find that resource. Antoine, let's get to you next, and then Count will get to you.
Yes. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, BEM, for hosting this. Thank you for Tony. I'm a corporate attorney myself. My name is Antoine Southern. One of my first deals was actually working on Nexstar's acquisition of Tribune.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So yeah, just kind of bringing it full circle. And you mentioned a little bit, Tony, of how kind of board selection process has changed over time. Now it looks like they're opening kind of the kinds of people that they're considering and kinds of background that they're considering for board positions, such as chief people officers, et cetera, and kind of want to see and kind of want to get your thoughts on how it's changed and where you kind of see it going in the future and with respect to like selecting board members. Thank you.
Yeah, so look, I think I caught a little bit of the wave following the murder of George Floyd around how companies were being very, very progressive in their thinking around opening aperture for boards and DEI efforts. Look, DEI is clearly under attack now. And I was just reading a study, and you probably can go Google it, from Spencer Stewart about diversity on boards. And we have taken a step back over the last 12 to 24 months. I'm not discouraged by that, because I'm hopeful that many of the Black directors that were placed will continue to make sure that we're mindful of the benefits of diversity in terms of corporate performance. It's, there's lots of studies that have demonstrated that. But let's be honest, there are, folks, you look around Tractor Supply, Harley-Davidson, Toyota, Ford, Lowe's, there's been a lot of companies that are saying we're moving away from that. What I believe is happening, and I'm hopeful, is that companies are being less performative in terms of having to get out and say and promote that they're doing all these things. But I'm very hopeful that still inside the four walls of the company, they're staying very focused on the benefits that having a diverse workforce, how it benefits them. I believe that green trumps everything, dollars. And more than anything, what you can do as executives on this is put up good performance numbers, hit your KPIs, and be somebody that they want on their team. Look, people are always concerned about themselves. They're very self-centered in this. And if you're a lawyer or supply chain or a salesperson who gets the job done, I have no concerns that you're going to find a place for yourself on a team where you're going to be wanted because you put up the numbers. And then you just have to navigate the cards that are dealt and the circumstances. But to me, it has changed. California had regulatory efforts overturned, SEC, NASDAQ. There were a lot of people who were trying to make this a mandate, and I think those days are gone. But I remain hopeful that we've got a little foothold, and now we need to kind of continue to demonstrate that we're doing a good job and that we're going to grow shareholder values.
Thank you.
Hey guys, these have been phenomenal questions, amazing answers, an absolute masterclass. Count, I believe there's another brother that has your hand up. If you could please just drop your questions into the chat. Victor puts become undeniable. Just because, time, we're going to get you all out of here on time, or maybe even a little bit earlier. So as we draw to a close here, Tony, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our guys about career progression, be it networking, board leadership, before we close out the chat?
Yeah, I was very fortunate. Early in my career, I went to a program called LDP at Johns Hopkins. It's run by a Professor Calvin Hill, who I still stay in contact with. And the premise of this leadership development program was for minority executives who were at the manager level, who needed to figure out what it would take to get to the C-suite. And the key thing I learned from that experience, that program, which changed my trajectory, is that you've got to play the game. And I often find that for, and I'm going to generalize here, Black executives say, hey, I'm just doing a good job. I can go home and work. I can do my job. And that is not going to suffice in today's world. You still have to build a sphere of influence and be able to connect and to knock down barriers by humanizing yourself with folks who may not see you as equals. And that's just, in my view, the reality, which is you have to play the game. You have to find a way to connect. You have to go out and kind of grab that beer or do some things that you might feel like, wow, I do my job. I don't need it. If you want to advance, you have to be able to develop some social currency and capital that you can use. And lastly, I would say is have those fierce conversations and ensure that you get not just a mentor at your company, but a sponsor. Those are two very different things. Somebody who's going to talk positively about you when you're not in the room, and put your name up on the whiteboard when they're talking about who do we give this next big P&L opportunity to. So keep up the fight. I appreciate you all. I feel so blessed. And again, connect on LinkedIn. If I can ever do anything to personally help you out, I will.
Thank you all. Thank you, Tony. We'll definitely be in touch. You guys, I hope this information was useful. Please have a good day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye for now.